Miss Aldridge and why I should care about this.
Like,
Well,
you wanted the 1 second answer, right?
No, no, just
Oh,
I
because
don't.
I
yeah.
could explain it in 1 second. World domination. That's it. That's it. If you want to know what world domination looks like, next year Spurs are just gonna kill everybody.
And
Just
yet
give
they're the
them.
good guys. It's good guy world
Yeah,
domination.
yeah, no,
It's
no, no, that's the
Kobe
thing.
Bryant villain domination or
Yeah,
something.
they're the Jedi. They're the Jedi now. The Jedi has resurfaced and they're taking over and they're getting rid of all the Sith. Kobe Bryant being like Darth Butthole or whatever.
I
But
like
yeah,
that.
the Spurs are going to be completely unstoppable now. Just to give you a bit of background, there was like about 8 teams chasing this guy. 8 freaking teams. They all wanted him badly. But Tim Duncan, who is the power forward for San Antonio Spurs, was his idol growing up. This is how long Tim Duncan's been playing. So when LaMarcus was growing up, Tim Duncan was his idol. And I think it was last year during an interview, he said that it would be cool if he could play with Tim Duncan and have Duncan pass the torch to him so he could take over the team. And that is exactly what's happening. And it's such a fun time to be a Spurs fan right now because they're just unbeatable with this roster.
So
The only downside is ticket prices will go up again,
Yeah, they're gonna go up.
especially playoff ones. But I'll watch at home like I normally do. I've only been to 2 playoff games in my life, so because they're so expensive. But I don't mind watching from home as long as they're winning.
I don't think I've ever been to an NBA game.
Really?
Yeah, I've never been to an NBA game or an NFL game.
You're an hour
So
away, dude.
yeah, I don't know. So I'll have to, I don't know, come see them sometime. We'll find a day and I'll come down and we'll
Cool. If I
go
get
see the
season
Spurs.
tickets, I can probably hook you up with a game or two.
Word.
Cool.
Well, that works for me. I just, I'm. It's not that I'm anti-basketball or I've never been into basketball. There is so much going on, and it's just not something that I follow all the time. And
If you
I
were
don't know.
born here in Texas, you would probably know more about sports. It's a big deal. Like, I mean, I've basically been a Cowboys, Spurs, and Rangers fan since I was a fetus. It's just something that you do here. I'm not as into it as some, especially football, like, because I went to an all-girls Catholic high school, so we
Ooh,
didn't
tell us more.
have a football team. So you know how everybody's into high school football here. It was off my radar, but I always watched like the NFL. I always watched the Cowboys still. So I'm not as crazy as others, but yeah, if you were born here, I think you would maybe have grown up with it more.
A lot of Friday Night Lights was filmed out at the school district where my wife used to teach up
Oh,
until about a
really?
year ago. Yeah,
That's
out
all.
in the yeah. So that was like a big deal because it was filmed around Austin, and it was
That
like
shit was awful.
yeah, they were getting a decent amount of money for filming that show there. So when they left, it was kind of sad because then they couldn't afford the stuff anymore, and it's a really low income area. So yeah, that was terrible. So I understand how like big of a deal sports are. I'm probably shortchanging my kids that I'm just not like into sports or like teaching them about all of this stuff. I took them to uh, a Round Rock Express game, and that's like their the only exposure they've had to baseball.
Was
So
that when it was the Houston Astros affiliate? You should go now that it's a Texas Rangers affiliate.
Oh,
yeah,
whatever.
Whatever, Marco. Shut
The
up.
Astros are kicking some serious butt right now.
finally,
Yeah, but my Rangers
Yeah.
aren't too shabby considering half their rosters on the DL, so they'll compete. Don't worry, they'll be there.
Here's the thing about the Astros and the Rangers alike. They will make it to the World Series, but they will choke. Ooh, there's going to be some hate coming my
Ooh.
way. Ooh.
oh,
Uh,
see what's
Whatever.
hilarious.
Hey, at least I stayed loyal to my team. You're over there with being a Yankees fan because they
I
won like
am.
50 million championships.
No, that's not
Whatever,
why.
Wagner.
That's not why. I'm a Yankees fan because my grandfather was a Yankees fan, and we
Yeah,
used to we
I
used
played
to
too.
no we used to watch the games together, and that's why. It's kind of weird because uh, so for baseball, I'm a Yankees fan because of that. I'm a Notre Dame fan because and for college football because
Because you
that
saw Rudy and it made you cry.
oh, this is way before Rudy. Way back in the day, those were the only games that we would get on TV, and I've always been an Irish history person, I guess an Irophile, you would call it, maybe. I don't know what you would call an Irish history fan. Anyway, so I gravitated towards that ever since I was a kid, and I'm still a fan now. The Spurs is my dad's fault, and the Cowboys is my uncle's fault. Because my dad's actually a Redskin fan of all things.
Ugh.
Yeah, but my uncles were all Cowboys fans, and I became a Cowboys fan because my uncles were cool, my dad wasn't.
You chose
But the
wisely.
Spurs, the Spurs. My dad used to bring us up to San Antonio. San Antonio was our vacation spot, and that's how poor we were. We used to look for all year long. My brother and I would be like, "We're gonna go to San Antonio this summer. Oh, so much fun!" Anyway,
Being
so
born
my dad would
what the hell is wrong with you?
my dad would take us to the Freeman Coliseum. He wouldn't take us to a game, not a freaking game. He would just take us to the Freeman Coliseum and tell us that's where the Spurs play. And I remember at one point they had like a mural painting of George Gervin, and we took pictures on the mural of George Gervin.
Do you mean Hemisphere? They never played at Freeman.
No, no, wait. Yeah, Hemisphere. Sorry, my bad.
Like, what
You're
year
right.
was this? I
Hemisphere.
don't understand.
Yeah, it's because I went to go see the Stars last week at the Freeman Coliseum. It threw me off. Anyway, yeah, I was at the
I
Hemisphere.
thought they played at AT&T.
No, they're playing at the Freeman Coliseum right now.
The women get
Yeah, and
relegated to the goddamn Coliseum.
no,
Yep.
and, well,
Texas.
I was along the 15 people there to watch the game.
Maybe that's why they're like, we're not opening the big arena for 15 people. That's
Yeah.
bad.
Anyway, so no, because of we would go to the Hemisphere and we would see the big old paintings of George Gervin. I just became an instant Spurs fan, and about what 3 maybe 4 years ago, I actually got to meet George Gervin, and he's like the coolest guy ever. He was really, really, really friendly. And when I told him about the murals, he went back in time. He's like, "Really, you remember that?" And I'm like, "Man, I got pictures of that." So that was really, really cool. And that's my connection to the Spurs and my sports history. But Melissa's onto something about Texas is that whether you like sports or not, it's gonna be in you one way or another. Like Andy, you're not a big sports fan, and you're not gonna be taking your kids to all these sporting events, but they will be exposed to them at school. I guarantee you, they'll be going to the Friday night games, and whether they like it or not, it's because those are socializing places where high school kids go to. So sports is pretty ingrained here in Texas. Huh? What was that?
Even the geeks go to Friday night football.
Yeah. Even people were like, I was a geek growing up, but that was where people would hang out. So
it's better than being at home.
right, because we got to see girls. They wouldn't talk to us, but we got to see them.
All of my friends were in the marching band, so I always went to support them and hung out with them to go to the games and whatever. So I get that, but I don't know. My entree into sports every year is always I will play fantasy baseball or fantasy basketball, and people hate me because I got invited into the office fantasy basketball league, and I didn't watch a single game all season, and I dominated. Just
No
because,
way.
yeah, well, it's applied statistics, and it's something that I'm kind of good at. So,
That's true.
yeah, it was awful. I also just happened to load up on a bunch of Spurs, and it was a year that very good. So I mean, this they have to perform above what you'd expect normally, so that worked to my favor very well. So yeah, I mean, that's probably not like, hey kids, let's get into sports. We're gonna draft a fantasy NBA team right now. But
But you'd be surprised. One of the go-to guys for fantasy sports news. His name is Matthew Berry. He calls himself Mr. Roto. He is a prototypical geek who just went up the sports world just by spearheading this fantasy stuff. And he says it himself. I'm a geek. I never played sports. I liked it, but this whole fantasy stuff came along. I rode that wave, and I'm so lucky to be. He's on ESPN now. He's got his own show. So yeah. I mean, sports has infiltrated everything, but especially in Texas, it's just everywhere. You can't escape it.
it's just another form of geekdom, which is great
Yeah.
because it's like you love Doctor Who, you love the Spurs, you love the Cowboys, you love King of the Hill. It doesn't matter like what it is that you geek out about. It's all one geekdom, and it's really good to see that. Like, I don't hate on sports geeks. I have a lot of friends that are sports geeks, and it's good that they are also like seeing Star Trek and Star Wars, and it's all becoming one fandom for better or for worse, which is cool. That there's that kind of ecumenicism among geeks, which I kind of like. We're no longer as tribal as like Star Trek is better than Star Wars or whatever, or maybe we are, but
Well, it's because Star Wars is better than Star Trek.
Yeah, true. On the
Everybody,
50,
everybody knows this.
on that quiz, I was 50-50, and that blew me for a loop because I was like, holy crap, I'm way more. I love them both, but I'm way more into Star Wars, or so I thought. But apparently, I'm equally into both.
yeah, that was weird for me too. I got like 60-40, and I'm like, I would have thought I was way more into Star
Yeah.
Wars.
I got 55-45 Trek, and I'm like, this thing's broken. It's stupid. It's just,
It's always broken when we don't like the results.
well, it's because it isn't true, man.
Oh crap, the election system's broken. I don't like the results.
Well, it is broken, though.
Yeah.
Well,
true.
in a world where Donald Trump is the number 2 candidate for the Republican nomination, the election system is broken.
It is broken.
There. But let's talk about something that isn't broken, and that is Doctor Who and Torchwood and all sorts of other awesome stuff. This is our 18th episode of Who Virgin. Thanks for bearing with us as we talk sports. I hope that was enlightening to people who also enjoy their sport.
They're
So-
fast forwarding right now on the bar. When do they shut up? When do they shut up?
Yeah.
But we are going to talk about.
A little.
We'll talk about a bunch of other stuff on this episode. Specifically, Mark has been binge watching Penny Dreadful, so stay to the end if you want to hear about that. We're going to start with talking about Terminator Genisys, and then after that we will get to the episodes of Torchwood that I watched this week. I finished the second season, and that's From Out of the Rain, Adrift, Fragments, and Exit Wounds. But let's start off with Terminator Genisys. I saw this. Melissa, you saw this. Mark has not seen this, and we are going to spoil the hell out of this thing for...
All right, baby.
Yeah. If you haven't seen it already, we're sorry. You want to fast forward the next 20, 30 minutes probably, because we're going to talk major spoilers to be able to break this down. And it's been out for about a week now, so I don't really feel bad for you that we're spoiling it. And here is my first bone that I have to pick with this movie, is that the marketing for this film already spoiled like the major plot twist that happens about halfway through the movie. So I really don't have a lot of moral conscience about spoiling this movie when they went ahead and did it already for themselves.
Yeah, that was surprising to me because that would have been a hell of a twist if we hadn't known about it going in.
Yeah,
think
it would have.
had so much impact. Because it is quite a twist, you know. But and I give them credit for going there, because you risk alienating a lot of fans like Marco by doing something like that. But yeah, I wish I hadn't known that going in, because it would have made it so much better.
I wish I could have taken some of the Torchwood retcon and just forgotten about all of that and then gone in, because that reveal when it's like, oh, they're in the hospital in 2017 and John Connor's here. Oh, and he's going to save them. Cool, that's awesome. And they're walking out through that parking garage, and then Arnold shows up with that huge teddy bear and the shotgun behind it and just blows John Connor away. And you're like, oh, holy crap, he
Yeah,
snapped. It's like his programming finally went off, and now he's here to kill John Connor. And oh my gosh, now they're going to have to fight him too. And it's like, oh no, it's way worse than that. Like, if I had been able to experience that moment, which is what I think they wanted us to think, that would have been really cool. And all I could think about is, well, yeah, he's a damn Terminator. We already know this because we saw the trailer, and they already showed that he's some sort of nanite Terminator or something, and he's not
yeah.
human. So
Yeah, you're absolutely right. That would have had a ton of impact had we not already known. And overall, though, I thought the movie was pretty good. It's not my favorite of the series, obviously,
yeah,
but I liked it. Like, if I had to put them in order, honestly, I barely even remember the third one. I know
that's
that
okay.
I know that I saw it. That's about it. I really loved the first one. The second one was pretty badass. As far as sequels go, it was really great, because normally sequels are a huge drop, but that one was right up there. So I really like T2. T3, like I said, I vaguely remember is
Claire
the one with the
Danes.
female, right, with the girl.
Yep, Christina Loken is
Yeah.
the girl Terminator.
But
Okay.
it's got
I
Claire
barely
Danes.
I barely remember anything about it, to be honest. I only saw it once. And then the last one was meh. It was okay. It was okay. But I like this one better than the last two, but not as much as T1 or T. I put it squarely in the middle of the franchise, I think.
That's exactly where I put it as well. And James Cameron himself has said that he doesn't recognize the third or fourth Terminator, but he does recognize this one as being within the what he thinks a Terminator movie should be, which is great that it got that blessing. The problem that I have is that the Terminator timeline and mythology has gotten so mixed up from these last two sequels and from the Sarah Connor Chronicles, which I actually really love the Sarah Connor Chronicles almost as much as I love the first Terminator and T2. I thought that was a great show, but the way they hit the reset button, it was hard for me to understand, okay, which of this mythology still exists and which of it does not. And it feels like every movie and every series for the last 10, 15 years, they've reset the rules, and they didn't make it clear to me like what they were doing here, and they left it up to Arnold Schwarzenegger as a robot to explain what was going on with the timelines, and it just didn't make a lot of sense.
It
And
didn't. And then John Connor, towards the end, he was like, when he was fighting. Oh, and his name, Arnold Schwarzenegger's character's name officially, I had to look it up on IMDb, is the Guardian.
he is the Guardian,
Yeah, or Pops, I
or
guess.
Pops. Yeah.
Yeah. So, it's when they're fighting, Pops and John Connor are fighting at the end, and he has him like to where he looks like he's gonna terminate, Pops. He says, "You're just a relic from a deleted timeline." I'm like, whoa, whoa, who's doing the deleting here? What's going? Like, there's a lot of
Whoa, 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 whoa. Okay. How
oh,
does
he's interested now.
How would he even know about the timeline if it's deleted?
Um,
Good
because
question.
See, that's the kind of stuff I'd be screaming at the screen. Like, this is why I am in no rush to watch this movie. Because that line alone, if you as a screenwriter don't understand that that line makes no sense, then the rest of the movie has no hope for me.
So, so let's try and explain exactly what happens in the movie. And like, I really needed Doc Brown to show up with his chalkboard and show like the 5 different timelines that were
yeah.
going on, and they just didn't do that properly. Speaking of, happy 30th birthday to Back to the Future on July 3rd.
Whoop whoop. Oh, and also Robert Zemeckis says that there will never be a reboot in his lifetime, so I hope he lives forever.
Yes, please keep living for many, many years, Robert Zemeckis.
Nobody else could be Marty McFly. Nobody.
Nobody.
Oh.
Right.
Nobody.
Not even Eric Stoltz. Damn it.
There doesn't need to be. It's like let's just let Back to the Future be what it was. Those movies are holding up well. They're fun. There's some 80s stuff in it, but that's okay. We're enjoying it, and yeah, just let them be. I think that's great. Okay. So the timeline is the movie starts off in 2029. John Connor and
Who is
Kyle,
not Terminator.
who's not an evil Terminator, who is just himself at the beginning, and Kyle Reese are infiltrating the Skynet's secret base with their ultimate weapon, which is the time travel machine. And Skynet is about to be taken out in another raid in Denver, which when that happens, it turns off all the Terminators, like the droid control ship in Phantom Menace, and they're all gone. But before that happens, the Terminators send an Arnold Schwarzenegger robot back to 1985 to kill Sarah Connor. And so then they send Kyle Reese back to try and stop that robot, just like the plot of the original Terminator. When they get back to the past, Kyle Reese, it turns out he's the one who needs to be saved because actually Sarah Connor and another Arnold robot have been there for a dozen years. That even further in the past, they came back to try and kill Sarah Connor when she was 9 years old, and they sent back another Terminator to be her guardian, and so she has been raised by him for the intervening years and have been waiting for Kyle Reese to show up. So they actually dispatched the first Arnold Terminator, and now there's also a T-1000 liquid metal Terminator that's coming after them. So they pick up Reese, and then they have a go-to-the-future time machine where after they kill the other Terminators, they're supposed to go to the future to stop Judgment Day. Right before Kyle Reese goes to the past, something happens in the future, and we're not quite sure what it is, but we see Matt Smith attack John Connor. Matthew Smith.
He's billed as Matthew Smith. The artist formerly known as Matt Smith is now Matthew.
What?
He regenerated, Melissa. He can't be Matt Smith.
Oh, is that what it is?
That's what it is.
Changing every time he regenerates.
What's with the incredulous attitude here?
I don't know why. Why do you have to be Matthew Smith? Why was there another Matt Smith that he thought was taking his street cred or something? Or
well, there could be something to that because he did all his acting in England. So if he was going to be getting an American actor's screen card, if there was a Matt Smith, he couldn't be Matt Smith again. He'd have to be a different Smith.
Was he Matthew?
There can't be actors with the same name. That's why a lot of people.
Michael J. Fox has the J in his name.
Correct.
Marty McFly. I wonder if there is a Matt Smith then.
Probably.
I don't know. Was he? Did you see that Ryan Gosling movie he was in? I heard it was really stinky awful, so I
Yeah.
didn't see it. But he was in that. I wonder if he was Matthew Smith there, or if, you know, he's just being hoity-toity this time or something. I don't know.
Hoity-toity.
I'm Matthew Smith.
Matthew.
Yeah. Anyway, so Fancy Pants Matthew Smith attacks John Connor, and we see him. He like grabs his head, and it like turns orange, and he's doing something. And Kyle Reese then has these visions of things that are things that are supposed to have happened in his past. So the Arnold Schwarzenegger pops Terminator explains to him that these are memories of his life that would have happened in this alternate timeline, and so he has dual memories, which doesn't make a lot of sense. But then they decode some of these memories and are able to figure out that he sent himself a message from the past that Genisys is Skynet and you can stop it before it comes online. So they have to go to 2017 to the launch of this Genisys operating system and blow it up before it becomes Skynet. And then once they travel to 2017, then John Connor shows up. It's revealed he is now a Terminator. Instead of being made of liquid metal, he's made of tiny nanite machines, so he can't be destroyed by any conventional means. And he's super strong and badass. Now, here's the question that I have is, why is he trying to kill Sarah Connor and Kyle Reese? Because then wouldn't he cease to exist as well?
Because Skynet programmed him to do that. Remember, he can't be bargained with, he can't be reasoned with, right? He said his only purpose is to get Skynet operational. And since they stood in the way of that, he would do anything it took. But remember, he thinks he's invincible, so he doesn't care. He doesn't think he's going to die. He thinks that Skynet is going to just keep going, and since he's a robot more than human, maybe he would, somehow survive. I don't know what he thinks, but he doesn't care as long as Skynet gets operational. So even if he has to die, he's going to do that because that's what he's programmed to do. I mean, that part made sense to me. That's one of the few parts that made sense to me.
Well, the relentlessness makes sense to me, but the whole, like, that paradox of, like, well, if I kill my parents, then John Connor ceases to exist, like that. It would seem like they could have actually had more, like, wacky fun with that. Like, I can't kill them, but I have to stop them, or something like that. Like, I don't know.
Timey-wimey, wibbly-wobbly, it's pretty...
you both have seen the movie About Time, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
You haven't, or you gotta watch it. It's a great movie. Extremely underrated. There is that one scene, Andy, where the main character, I forget his name right now, he goes back into the past to change his sister's life decisions by having her not meet the boyfriend that's abusive to her.
Yeah.
And then when he jumps back into the future, when he goes to look for his baby, it's no longer baby girl, it's a baby boy.
Yep.
So then he goes back in time to talk to his father, who tells him, I forgot to tell you, if you go past the timeline of your child, you ruin everything about your child, because that one sperm has that one egg, and it's unique. If you switch anything, that child changes because it's a different sperm that fertilizes the egg.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's logical. In this movie, Kyle Reese goes back into the future, but things were manipulated, and yet we still get John Connor? I don't know, man. It's stuff like this that kind of annoys me. And as a matter of fact, you and what's his name, Adam, were talking about Looper, That's one of the things that annoy me about Looper too. They think, oh, we'll just change this in the past and stuff in the future will work out. It doesn't work that way. It's just so dumb. In Looper, they have that one guy that they catch in the past, and they start chopping off his arm and then his leg, and then in the future, stuff is disappearing. I'm like, no, because if he would have been legless at some point, and he would have never been there without his leg. It makes no sense whatsoever. So
I care less about whether a movie or show follows all the rules of more whether it follows its own rules. So, like in Looper, that was their thing. In About Time, it's like kids are the ultimate fixed point, and you can't change anything before that, or you change the kid. That makes a lot of sense. I kind of subscribe to the whole like alternate dimensions. If there are people within alternate timelines that are attracted to one another, and I don't mean like a physical sexual attraction or something like that. I mean like I'm thinking about like Kirk and Khan. That like those two were always going to be on a collision course in any timeline, no matter what. So there's always going to be some circumstance where Kirk has to have a showdown with Khan. And so I just wish that the Terminator franchise were more clear about what their rules are for time travel, because they seem really, really loosey-goosey with it, especially in this iteration.
And especially, okay, do you remember it towards the end where Kyle Reese goes to little Kyle Reese and talks to him?
Yes.
What the hell? Like, shouldn't that cause some kind of paradoxes? Like, I mean, I understood why he had to do it. In order for all the stuff that they did right before that to happen, he had to implant that memory in him. But you shouldn't be able to do that without something really bad happening. Like and I understand what you say about following your own rules, but I don't know if there is a set of rules for Terminator. I feel like they're just making it up as they go.
Exactly.
And so but generally speaking, in almost every time travel saga, you're not supposed to meet your former self. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And so that kind of bothered me. And they were so casual about it. And the kid, like, here comes Sarah Connor, who he met once in a staircase at a police station that's getting shot up. And, she met him once, and then she's like, oh, I want my friend to come and talk to you. Oh, okay. And she shows him at his house, and he's like, the kid's so casual about it. I would have ran inside like, Mommy, I mean, like, stranger danger or something. I mean,
yeah,
it's so easy about it, and I'm like, okay.
It was just lazy screenwriting, and it was way too convenient. I liked how they tried to put some of those pieces together, but at the end, it just felt way too convenient. But if you go back to our very, very first episode of this podcast, we go through, like, every single franchise and, like, the different rules of time travel that they have, because I'm trying to, like, get prepared for Doctor Who and what rules it's going to have. And I think we came to the conclusion that Terminator's rules for time travel were already pretty messy, that the only rule is that when you travel through time, you have to do it naked. And that is one thing that they explained in this movie, that you can't...
Outlander, you don't.
See?
Oh, that's true in Outlander. You have to touch a rock.
And it's funny because there's so much nudity and sex in that show, and the one time that there should be nudity, when she goes back, she's like fully dressed.
Well, she's half naked though.
No, she's not. She's in a dress.
She's in a nightgown. But they consider. Oh, you're talking about 200 years in the past, so they consider her half naked.
Oh well, yeah. Which it looks like a dressing gown to them, like what you'd sleep in.
Right.
But it's an actual dress from 1940. I mean, it covers her whole body.
Well, I mean, they meet you halfway. It's porny for the 1400s.
All for Silas. All for Silas.
on to the episode where she takes off her clothes to take a bath and they see her bra because they didn't have bras back then?
And they're like, "What's that?"
Yeah, and she's like, "Oh, it's French," and they're, "Oh," because like the
Oh my God, that makes
the
sense.
French
Yeah.
would have that, perverts. Anyways, I'm sorry to interrupt, but yeah. So anyway, let me just say one thing. Since Marco's a little engaged, because he looked kind of bored earlier, since he's a little more engaged in this discussion right now. I remember last week you were saying anything with Jai Courtney. Is that his name?
Yep.
It's
Yeah.
gonna be terrible. And I've heard that a lot. Like, there's a lot of people who hate this guy. I didn't know who he was, so I went to look him up, and it turns out I've seen 2 movies he's in, the Divergent movies.
He's horrible.
I thought he was fine.
Are you kidding me? I'm
I
a bad guy. I will kill you. This is me. That's throughout the whole
I'm
movie.
not really even into those movies. I went because my nephews wanted to go, so fine. I've never seen. It seems the one everybody really hates him in is the Die Hard. I have not seen Die Hard 5. I haven't seen anything from Die Hard since the second one because that was awful. And I just decided that after you have Alan Rickman as your villain, you just can't get any better than that. So I'm not gonna watch any more Die Hard. But he wasn't great in this. I don't think anybody was particularly great in this, but and I'm sure, Andy will probably disagree with me. I liked him better as Kyle Reese than I liked Jason Clarke as John Connor.
No, I agree with that.
Yeah, I really did, and I know
So Jason
Marco's
Clark's
probably
that bad. Jesus.
Yeah.
But yeah, even before he was a Terminator, he was just weird. Did you think he was weird when he was still John Connor?
He was
really
weird.
I don't understand what acting choices he was making or what they were going for, but he seemed really like stilted, or is that the word?
He
like
had a
Yeah.
director, right? He had a director though.
I don't know what it was, but I did not like John Connor at all in this movie, even before he became a Terminator, and so that bothered me. And so I guess by comparison, it's like, I don't understand the Jai Courtney hate. He was fine. I mean, he wasn't great, but he's fine, and I liked him better than John Connor.
I think the best thing that can be said about Jai Courtney is that you saw 2 movies with him in it and completely forgot him. So that is, I mean, he's totally forgettable in this too, and so is Jason Clarke. And I love his other work, like in Zero Dark 30. He did so much with so little. Like, he was not even the main character, and you saw every single thing that went on with that guy. And the scene where he's so sad because they took his monkeys away, I'm just like, oh, they took your monkeys away. and then kind of the same thing in Planet of the Apes. He did great work there too. And so I'm really disappointed by him in this. It's like, you're capable of a lot more, and you just I don't know what happened here.
Yeah.
And
It was very distracting. It was very distracting at the beginning.
Yeah, I think all of the facial scars and everything also were really distracting. You're like, are we going to get an explanation for that, or is it just he's all scarred up or whatever?
I guess I just assume it was from the war, but
yeah, it looked kind of fakey though, which was
maybe that's part of why he couldn't talk right. If he had prosthetics on his face, maybe it inhibited his speech somehow. I don't know, but it was very stilted and wooden, and I didn't like it at all. And I expected better from him.
It might have been the director's choice though. That whole foreshadowing. This is not John Connor's, or
It would have been more effective had he been more human at first, and then because then the comparison of his human self and his Terminator self would have been more contrasting. You know what I mean? I don't know. I didn't like it at all. I thought Jai Courtney was fine. I thought Emilia Clarke was fine. I gotta say, I did not realize how much this franchise missed Arnie. He was in deadpan form. You know what I mean? Because that's about the only real acting range he has, is that deadpan humor.
Yep.
And he was in fine deadpan form, I gotta say. So he really made the movie for me. You know, and the whole old, not obsolete thing, and how he sort of got his feelings hurt as much as a Terminator can get his feelings hurt. Um, you know, all the little touches. You know, and they were inventive. Like, I really like the inventive way they killed the liquid Terminators. You
Yep.
know, like they had it all set up and ready for them, and that was pretty cool. Um, there were some things I really enjoyed, you know, but there were it's almost an equal number of things that either were confusing or I just didn't like. But the main thing I didn't like, which surprised the hell out of me, was Jason Clarke. He was terrible.
Yeah. Well, and I want to bring this back to Matthew Smith because he's only in this movie for like 30 seconds, 40 seconds. We
Nuh-uh,
see
it's
him.
longer than that. Well, if you
Okay.
include the hologram.
Uh, okay. If you count him as the hologram, but uh, he's barely in this
Yeah,
movie. And if anything, I could have done with more Matthew Smith. Like,
absolutely.
I haven't even gotten to the 11th Doctor stuff, and I'm still like, I can see what's appealing about this, and he seems kind of scary, and um, you know, I wanted more of that, and they teased something in that mid-credit sequence that I mean, there's obviously going to be more sequels to this. That ending, they set this up to have sequel after sequel, and they're just going to keep uh, pulling these off the assembly line like a Terminator. They're just going to ship them out of the
Well,
factory.
it hasn't. They said that there's 3 in all. Like, it's supposed to be a trilogy, so there
Right.
could be 2 more, but they haven't greenlit them yet because they're waiting to see the returns. And I actually looked earlier today to see how it done, and it didn't beat numbers 1 and 2 are still Jurassic World and Inside Out. It
Nope.
came third. It
Yep.
made like $45 million, and they expected it to make like 50. Um, so I don't know how that fares for, you know, because it costs like 160 million or something to make. Excuse me, and it's just going to keep getting more expensive. Um, so I don't really know if they are going to make it. You know what it probably depends on is how it does overseas. More and more, even films that suck here, if they, you know, if they do well overseas, they'll still make them. You know,
Yeah.
they'll make a sequel.
Yeah. I think there's too much inertia behind this franchise, and that eventually with DVD and foreign markets, they'll make their money back, and it'll be fine. I hope that they come up with something that is more interesting this next time around, and that explains its own mythology and time travel better, and utilizes its actors and characters better. That's what this came down to for me. I didn't hate the movie. I thought it was better than average, but not by much.
It sounds like we're complaining a lot, like we hated it. I thought it was a little. It's like if out of 100, if I had to give it a score, I'd give it a 70. It passes, but it's not, but barely. You know, it's not great. Um, Maybe a 75 because I really did like Arnie and that weird wooden smile of his. That just cracked me up every time. So yeah, 70 to 75. You know,
But
it's not.
that's not what we deserve as fans. You know, that's what bothers me. That they take us for granted. You know, imagine if Marvel would just take us for granted and just give up. We'd be getting a 70 movie. You know, that 6.5 out of 10 type of movie. I mean, that's kind of insulting. It
See,
really is.
here's the thing, though, is when Marvel is putting their movies together, they know their characters, and
Right.
they also have this idea for this overarching story arc that they're trying to do. It felt like with Terminator Genisys, a bunch of screenwriters sat around a table and someone stood at a whiteboard and they just started throwing out everything that they love about Terminator movies, and they wrote on there explosions and time travel and T-1000s, and someone's got to
Twists.
say come with me if you want to live, and someone's got to do this, and we got to have Arnold back, and he's got to do this, and and they just took all of that and said, okay, how can we fit this all into one script, rather than coming up with like an original idea that would say something about humanity or about the I don't know, the human existence. The thing that I love the most about the first two Terminator movies is the relentlessness of those machines. That they're really scary because they won't stop, and it seems like you can't stop them. And I mean, they tried to do that again in the third one with a new model, and it just didn't work. And they tried to do that in Terminator Salvation a little bit, and I don't know, that movie just kind of fell apart in and of itself. But I miss that relentlessness and that fear that, like, this thing is hunting us and we don't know how to stop it. They almost caught that through the first half of the movie, where the one liquid metal Terminator is chasing them in the 80s, and they're doing their best until they can get it through that trap and dispatch it. But I missed feeling that the rest of the movie. In the Sarah Connor Chronicles TV show, there's not only that feeling of, actual T-800s or T-888s that are coming after them. There's also this feeling of relentlessness of time, and that no matter what they do, they can't stop Judgment Day. All they're going to do is like delay it and kick the can down the road. And so, but they've got to keep fighting and maybe see if they can break fate. And we never had that feeling in this entire movie that like something was really after them. It was just moving from action sequence to action sequence to action sequence, which was fine, but I just expect more of with something that's got such a cool concept and idea behind it of robots and time travel and Arnold Schwarzenegger. It just seemed like they should have been able to put something better together.
Well,
go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, I was going to say, I read that the rights to the franchise have been passed over and sold and resold, and so I feel like it has a little bit of an identity crisis right now.
Exactly.
For seeing this movie. But hopefully, if we can keep the same, because there was potential here, I just think that they kind of rushed it through and didn't think it through enough. Because it seems these days because of the price of all these effects and everything, you have to make it bigger and better or whatever, and they just sort of rush it through, and I don't think they know their own rules. If they can keep, but there was potential, so I feel like if they can keep the same team, the same minds, and not go, schizo on this, then there's potential for the next two if they do, and I'm pretty sure they're going to do them, even though it's not official yet. I feel like there's potential if they can keep the same people on board and find its identity again. Maybe these aren't the perfect minds to be doing that, but there's potential, and so.
Abdi and
Hello?
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I would go see a next one if I thought that they were, taking advantage of that potential. Because this was not a franchise killer for me, like some people would say. It wasn't great, but I would still go watch a sequel in the hopes that staying with the same team and not getting sold again would increase the quality.
I think the franchise killer was Terminator Salvation.
Yeah.
I'm not sure we have a Terminator franchise anymore. I don't know what this is. Of course I haven't seen it, but reading everything I've read about it and listening to you guys, this isn't. It doesn't have the soul of the Terminator movies. I think the main problem was that the first movie was based on a nightmare James Cameron had, and if you really pay attention to the movie, it's a horror film.
Yep.
Pretty much what it is. He put a nightmare on celluloid and shared it with us, and it was fantastic. And the sequel that he made is all about how we can't escape the future. doesn't matter what we do, the future's coming, and it's coming to change us. It's coming to change everything. We cannot escape it. And there's that statement. And then after that, none of the other movies make much sense. I do kind of like Rise of the Machines, if only because we get to see the whole nuclear proliferation that happens at the end, where there's nukes being thrown about everywhere. So we get a context as to how it all starts, and how humanity, the beginning of the end for humanity, starts at that point. But even then, the movie wasn't all that great. Salvation was just horrible. There's too many wrong things with it. And I don't think we're going to get that back. I don't think we're ever going to get Terminator, the soul of Terminator, back, ever. And it's sad. And another thing about Arnold Schwarzenegger, he needs to start doing something else, man. he really does. Because it's all getting a bit old, and he's getting old.
There's a movie, I forget what it's called, but it's with
It's with him and the little kid, right?
Yeah, who turns into a zombie.
Yeah.
He was actually really good in that. I gotta say, he impressed me, because after seeing that last Batman in the first Batman franchise, it started with Michael Keaton. Where he played. Yeah. Oh my God.
He was horrible.
There was a lot of horrible things about that, but he was the worst part of it in my mind.
I haven't seen that movie that you're referencing to, but it's great that you bring it up, because Sylvester Stallone, enough with the Rocky, enough with the Rambo, enough with the Expendables. Cut it out, dude. Because when he puts his mind to it, have you seen Copland?
Yeah.
So good, and he is great in the movie. So great. They need to break out of this. They need to both stop obsessing over being action stars and work with what they have. They can still turn out great stuff if they let themselves.
Okay, I'm gonna cap this discussion with, if you saw that trailer this week for Creed, the Rocky spinoff about Apollo Creed. Margaret, you're wincing. Did you see it?
I purposefully have not, because Jesus.
Okay, you should see this, because, okay, first of all, Michael B. Jordan looks great, and second, it's very obvious to me that Sylvester Stallone understands that he is now the same age that Burgess Meredith was in the original Rocky. And so Rocky...
You dumb son of a bitch.
Yeah, Rocky is essentially just going to be that character. He's just going to be training him. He's not... It's not going to be about him. This is supposed to be passing that torch along.
How old is Creed's son? Because he should be like in his 40s by now. That happened a long time ago.
You would think so, but I guess, I don't know, maybe they froze his sperm. Well, okay. Rocky IV, when he was killed by Ivan Drago, that was 1984, 85? So the kid would have had to have been born then. The kid's got to be 30 years old. I guess
that's late for a boxing career. That's so late.
Yeah, exactly. And I think Michael B. Jordan's younger than that. I think he's like 23, 24.
Jordan, ever since Friday Night Lights, I'll watch it.
I'm gonna end up watching it, because you know what? I just crapped on Sylvester Stallone, but Rocky Balboa, that last movie he made,
that's really good.
Pretty damn good.
That was good.
Really good. And I actually enjoyed his last Rambo movie as well. It wasn't
Cobra 2 next.
Yeah, but like I would love to see him do something else. I really would, because I think he's got it in him.
Yeah, but if people don't go watch it, then you can't do it. Like Jim Carrey was freaking fantastic in Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind.
Yep.
But nobody watched it really, and it didn't make a ton of money. And these days you gotta make like twice what the movie costs at least, and that to break even with marketing and whatever. And people don't go see his movies when he does serious. They want to see him talk out his ass like Ace Ventura, And so I don't necessarily blame the actors, because sometimes maybe they just can't get anything else funded,
No, but Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind is pretty much universally beloved by people who have seen it. Everybody knows how great that movie is, and I don't know. People I think don't want to hear Jim Carrey talking about his ass, especially if he's talking about vaccines.
Oh
So,
Jesus,
Oh God,
oh
not
snap!
get me started
he's
about.
such an idiot.
Oh
He's,
Uh,
snap!
he's
Yeah.
such an idiot.
So anyway, Terminator franchise. Yeah, I agree. I want to see something different. I want to see something better, and specifically, I want to see more Matthew Smith. That's where I'm leaving it.
yes.
Cool.
Yeah. So, in that transition to Doctor Who and Torchwood, let's talk about They Came Out of the Rain.
Cool, cool. Are we gonna go on break or?
From Out of the Rain. No, we'll talk about From Out of the Rain and then we'll take a little break.
Okay, cool.
So, From Out of the Rain, I thought this was a great episode. Um, Essentially, I don't think you can go wrong with Carnies for creep factor. And this was a nice self-contained episode, and I really loved it, and don't have really anything bad to say about it.
Yeah, I think it's a great episode in and of itself. It starts because we the episode that preceded that was all about it was pretty much it was funny, right? And then we had the big wedding and all that. So this one kind of starts changing the mood a little bit more. It's a little darker. I love the idea of things from film coming to life.
Yes.
Yes.
That's pretty freaking cool. I've always liked that. I believe one of the horror movies, Sinister, is about that. So they probably ripped it off from Russell T Davies. He should be suing right now. But it's pretty cool, especially with carnies. There's something about carnivals that I've never trusted ever since I was a kid. Carnies are, I mean, I'm pretty sure they're good people, but there's that whole mythology about like when the lights go off, they're axe murderers and they're cannibals or whatever. So there's that whole ambience throughout the episode. There's just something weird happening in the carnival, and then there's the fact that Jack knows some of these people because he was on film.
Yep.
So the mystery of Jack continues to deepen. But the whole point of the movie of the episode was that there's these evil characters popping out of film who were stealing people's last breath. Was it, or was it their soul?
No, the breath, the last.
Well, their last breath, right?
Yeah.
And that's how they keep living themselves. So they're on the race of time trying to stop them from stealing more last breath, I guess. And I thought that was pretty cool. It's a pretty fun episode.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess the only sad part was how they couldn't save everyone. They only ended up saving that one kid.
Oh, the one little kid.
Yeah.
That was, and just poor Yantu was just all tied up about that. And that was, I don't know.
Yeah, I love the concept of this. This is wildly creative. You know, I gotta say, as uneven, because this season for me overall was a little uneven because it sort of felt like, you know, lighter episode, darker, way darker, not so dark. You know, it was sort of all over the place. I didn't feel like there was a central theme to the whole season, but individual episodes really stood alone well, you know, like this one. It didn't really do anything to like further any other storylines, but it was, you know, it's very standalone, but it was, I mean, I think it's wildly inventive, these things, and especially I love it when there's like, when people around there know, and there's a mythology, like they would say that kids were told to hold their breaths so they wouldn't get taken, you know, like that. I love little details like that, you know what I mean? That just really helps make it. And I loved it that at the end they show like a film reel being bought, and so there could be other ones out there, so they could, this is something they could have gone back to, which, you know, they didn't, but but they could have. And so when you're first watching it, you're like, ooh, there's a chance we could revisit this and maybe delve deeper into this, you know, which is a missed opportunity in my mind. But at the time I was excited by that prospect, you know. So yeah, I don't really have anything bad to say about it. It's a nice standalone episode that I thought was really a great concept.
Yeah, and the whole. I also like where they left it, where it's like they're not really dead, and that there's other film of them out there, and they're gonna keep coming back.
Yeah.
They're gonna keep coming back out of the rain. It's like anytime they do that, it's like, well, we've stopped them, but they're not really gone. It's like,
See, and I'm
ooh.
disappointed that they never end up revisiting this. Sorry, that's kind of a spoiler, but because here's the thing, like, they don't have like a really big like Dalek or Cyberman or something that they revisit a lot in Torchwood.
Right.
I felt like they always were lacking that. That's something that it would have been. I mean, yeah, we saw the Cybermen in season 1, but that's a Doctor Who thing. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I really wish they had invented. I mean, well, you've got the Weevils, I guess, but it's not. I wouldn't count them. They're not on the level of like a Dalek or a Cyberman. You know what I mean? I really wish they would have. It would have been nice to have something like this where they revisit them often, but they're so menacing. You know what I mean? Like even though Weevils are bad, they don't seem menacing somehow. Like not as on the level of like a Dalek or something. You know what I'm saying? Does that
Totally.
make sense? I
Totally.
wish they would have had more recurring characters like this. So that was a missed opportunity. But
Well, they do have a character that bookends the season.
John Hart. Yeah.
well, okay, yeah, but that's still not quite the same because he's not always a villain. I mean, he's,
Right.
you know, it's not the same. It's not like, the Master or someone like that.
Yeah, I agree. It would be cool to like bring that back, but it also seems like, I don't know, Torchwood always seemed very limited to me. Like, I don't know, maybe it's just because coming at it now, it's like I know that it wasn't like a consistent, we're putting out a season every year, and it switched channels that it was on, and now they're only doing radio shows, and so it always seemed like kind of more of a niche sort of thing anyway. So yeah, while I completely agree that it would have been great for them to have a reoccurring villain or something like that, I don't know if the Carnies could have like risen to that level. I'm having like post-traumatic stress flashbacks to the season of Heroes with creepy Carnies and how like that turned out really badly after just several episodes. So I love creepy Carnies, but I think that too
They
much
have
creepy
small
Carnies.
hands.
I think I think too much of them makes them less creepy, and it's I don't know, maybe one recurring appearance, but yeah.
Well, if they were to escape film permanently and then just be, wrecking havoc all over London or all over England, that would be one thing. But we don't get that opportunity, though. Because,
Yeah.
like you said, the property is mismanaged massively. I wish that Russell T Davies would just hand everything over to John Barrowman and his sister, who he and his sister are doing the screenplay writing for all the radio plays. So I wish that Davies would just say, "You can have it, run with it," because he wants to do something with it. And what's her name? Eva Miles, who plays Gwen, also wants in. So it's extremely frustrating that we haven't gotten as much Torchwood as I think we should have, because we should have had a lot more.
Yeah.
Because the following season's only 5 episodes long, and it's great.
Well, what the heck is Russell T Davies doing that he's so busy that he can't?
He's taking care of his husband, or is he just a partner? I don't. Whatever the case may be.
His husband, he has cancer, right?
Yeah, he's very, very, very sick, and he doesn't want to leave his side for anything.
Oh,
But that's
well,
what I'm saying. Just,
I feel bad.
Yeah, I know. What's with you, homophobe?
I wasn't even thinking that. I was just like gender, sexuality, or whatever aside, but like taking care of your partner with cancer, but still.
But
He had 3 series in the last year. They're all like about gay life in the UK. They're 3 different series, so don't tell me he couldn't
I
make
didn't know that.
Torchwood. Yeah, it's
Well-
called like banana and pickle and cucumbers. And they're all named after foods. And
really,
Yeah, and it's
What the
different.
heck is he doing then?
One is about like 20-something guys, and then one's about like older guys who lost their partner and now they're trying to restart their life in the new gay scene. And yeah, they're all about different aspects of gay life in the UK. So he's done 3 series. I'm sorry, no,
Yeah,
he could do some Torchwood.
yeah, he needs to, or he needs to pass it down to John Barrowman. He
Yeah,
has
get on that, Russell T Davies.
lazy ass. I know you're listening, you bastard.
So, that's great. Let's take a little tiny break, and then we will be back with the last 3 episodes and that whole emotional roller coaster and Penny Dreadful. So we'll see you in a second. All right. Anybody need a break?
Yeah, I need to go check on something. I'll be right back.
Okay.
All right, you alky.
What?
Oh, we know what need a
You're
break
gonna go
means.
refresh that drink
No, that is not it at all. I gotta go pee, okay?
because of the alcohol. Hold on, I might as well do the same thing. I'll be right back.
Oh, snap. Okay, fine.
Okay, I'm back whenever Marco is.
Okay.
Yeah, it's cucumber, banana, and tofu are the names. I'm looking it up because I wanted to make
Tofu?
sure I got it right.
That doesn't even make sense.
Yeah.
Is that about Asian gays or?
Oh,
I'm trying to make sense of this. Like that's just weird. Anyway, Russell T Davies, crazy guy.
Yeah, I think he could do some Torchwood if he's doing these. I don't think they were very well received either. I don't think the reviews were very good from what I remember. But yeah, if he can do, I don't think there's that many episodes in each one. But if he can do 3, even if there's only 5 episodes in each, that's 15 episodes. That's more than a whole season of Torchwood. You know what I mean?
I will say that I hated Miracle Day though, the last season. That it was just.
Yeah, it was embarrassing because like I have friends in England and they were like, so this is what happens when you take a British show and put it in America and give it American values and American money. You just throw all your money at it and make it explode, and like they were so mad.
They're right. It was a horrible season.
Yeah, it's embarrassing for us as America. I was like, well, I'm not defending that shit. Like, I can't defend it. The whole thing's not horrible, but overall, yeah.
Mostly, it was very bad decisions along the way.
yeah, that was the season that was on Stars.
Yeah.
Was it really appreciably that worse?
19 episodes between these 3 shows. He can make some Torchwood, damn it.
Yeah. Well, the thing about the last season was that it just made no sense. That was the biggest sin. It just constantly, where are we going with this? Where are we going with this? Like, why is this being done? Like, none of this makes sense. The entire way through, that's all you're thinking. And there's some actual pretty bad acting by some pretty good actors in that season.
All right.
So you got that to look forward to.
It. Yeah.
Yay! No spoilers. But we just made it to where you don't want to watch anymore.
Well, then I'll have to slog through that when I get to it. But let's get back and talk about some good Torchwood. Start with Adrift.
Ugh,
Uh,
gut punch, man.
Yeah,
yeah,
that one was bad.
that is well, I
Bad
mean,
in a good way. I mean,
No,
it's
I was
just
gonna say no, it's good, but it's
no, no,
just
no. Yeah,
it's
yeah.
so
But what happens
bleak.
just
It's so
uh,
bleak.
yeah, and that's the thing that throughout the beginning you hear about the drift in Cardiff and things coming in and out of the rift, and you don't really think about the people factor because you know people are going to be affected, and you don't really think about it. It never crosses your mind. Well, Gwen is dealing with this throughout the entire episode. At first, Jack is real adamant that she just drop what she's doing because she made the connection about missing people in
mhm.
London, and something's going on, and Jack's telling her leave it alone, and she doesn't want to until she finds out exactly why Jack is telling her to leave it alone, and it's basically people who are caught in the rift, and they were changed, and now Torchwood has a facility where they're dealing with them. They can't release them back into the public because there's obviously something very wrong with them. So they just have to try and make the rest of their lives, however long that may be, somewhat comfortable. And it centers around this one missing child, and what happens to this child at the facility is just heartbreaking, absolutely heartbreaking.
Well, and that's the whole crux of the episode too, is Gwen is trying to solve this mystery on behalf of this mom who's like, I need to find my son. I need to find him. And then when she actually does, and she sees that he's been aged 40 years and he has all of these scars from major burns, and he spends 20 hours a day doing this primal scream of
The
just
scream.
awfulness, and then she says, I wish I didn't know. And Gwen's like, but you said you wanted to. And she's like, yeah, but I didn't. And so Jack was right. Jack Jack was like, don't pull on this thread. You're not gonna like what you find at the end. And that's exactly what happened. And that's a really terrible lesson to have to learn, but man, it is just heartbreaking. So I don't know. What do you think about that morality? Are there some things that we think we want and we think we want to know, but it's better that we really don't. That truth is remains hidden from us.
Man, I bring up uh, this discussion quite a bit whenever we're talking about how our government handles secrets
Hmm.
and why our government probably shouldn't be as transparent as we want them to be. Because there's some stuff we just really, really don't want to know, um, and we have to trust that our government's handling it right. So sometimes, regardless of how badly you want to know something, sometimes the consequences of you knowing is just not worth it. It's just not. So I'm okay with hiding some of that from people who really want to know because you don't want to deal with the consequences.
Generally, I'm not a rose-colored glasses type of person, but I could see where in some cases it would be better, to have those blinders on in a way. But there's no way to ever say, okay, well, we should have the blinders on here, but not here in these cases and not those, because you
Right.
don't know what you're going to encounter. Um, and that's what made this so heartbreaking was seeing that mom pack up her kids' clothes, like, because she knew that she had to move on after all that time and that he was never coming home. That's heartbreaking. Um, yeah, it was a gut punch, but I thought Eve Miles was freaking fantastic in this episode. She really was. I think this is the best acting she's done as Gwen. But remind me, this is the episode where her and Reese have a fight at the beginning, right? They're like
Yeah.
having a picnic
Yep.
or something under a
Was this the
tree.
baby talk?
Yep.
No, what was it? It was about he wanted her to leave Torchwood at Torchwood and home was home. And it was very out of character for him because I was like, what the hell? Because he was frustrated with her at first when she was still lying to him about it. When she was trying to pass herself off as special forces still. But once he came into the fold, he seemed to be generally accepting. And so when he yelled at her like that and told her he didn't want to hear about work, I just thought that was out of character and I hated it. So that just made her performance even more, because in the back of her mind she's thinking about how strange her very young marriage is already because of Torchwood, and then she's got to deal with all this. And that just made it that much sweeter though at the end, where they got, where he realized what a jerk he'd been, and told her to, that she could cry on his shoulder. But she was good throughout the whole thing. And it was nice to take a kind of a respite from like the Tosh Owen thing, because I was just so sick of that by now.
Mm-hmm.
So this was a very Gwen-centric, and I loved it. Yeah, I mean, it made me sad, but I still loved it.
Yeah,
Well,
and this is where Torchwood. I mean, I know you called it an uneven series, but I don't think so, because the previous episode we saw a side of Yanto that we hadn't seen before. Before that, he was just the guy who prepared coffee and cleaned up Torchwood, and had all these snazzy solutions because he was so organized. But we got to see part of Yanto that we hadn't seen before, a real human side, and now we got to see the inner workings of Gwen's life outside of Torchwood. So I think this season did that pretty well.
Is this the one where we see him making out with Jack? Or is that one of that happened in one of these episodes?
That's the two-part finale.
Okay. I'm
pretty sure about
just
that.
making a joke about another side of Yanto.
You're right, because after that, Jack tells her to officially drop it. Don't look further into this. So yeah, that's when he and Yanto were shacking up.
That was kind of hilarious, or at least awkward.
Yeah.
Poor Gwen was like, "Oh, that was not what I was expecting to find." There you go. That's what happens when you work at Torchwood.
Yeah. Knock on doors. Always knock.
Anyway, but yeah, I was surprised at how well they were able to balance that domestic and kind of supernatural element, and the also very normal discussion that they were having, where Reese is a little bit jealous of her former partner Andy, and and that he doesn't like that she's working with him, and he's like, oh well, and he really doesn't like Reese, and so there's obviously something between the two of them.
Well, he's into Gwen, right?
Yeah.
He calls Reese fat or something.
Yeah.
Yep. So I liked seeing Andy in this episode and in the finale. That was fun to bring him back for those couple of episodes. Yay. But it was so great that this felt very grounded. It could have been almost a police procedural on any other network or any other show about a missing person. It just happens to be that that there was this supernatural element, and I think that's where Torchwood is really at its best.
It was almost very X-File-ish.
Yeah, it was. It was very X.
Oh, I think we lost Andy.
Well, I've been hearing an echo for a while.
Oh, you have?
Yeah.
Andy's
yeah,
not
there's
broken.
quite a bit of echo going on. No, it's one of you.
Oh, is it me?
I don't know.
Sure? No, because your lips are moving and I don't hear anything, and then you talk.
Yeah,
Oh.
they look like kung fu movies right now, Andy.
Uh-oh.
Hong Kong Fu.
Yeah.
Uh-oh. That's weird.
On the wrong network again, Andy.
No, it should be fine. I don't know what's
You're
going
fine
on.
now, but a minute ago you weren't.
Okay.
It's not
like a Hong
me,
Kong
it's
movie.
him too, so...
Sorry about that.
You have dishonored my family.
You want to fight?
Fight
Fight.
first.
All right. Let's move on from our technical difficulties and talk about our next episode, which which was Fragments.
Yeah. They should have renamed it Holy Shit 1 and Holy Shit 2.
Yeah.
I was not expecting that when I saw it. Like,
Nope.
whoa.
Yeah, I guess we should talk about Fragments and Exit Wounds together, pretty much, because they're basically the same story.
Right.
Yeah. The return of Captain John Hart and James Marsters, and specifically in that he tries to blow up the members of Torchwood, and then we get to see how they all came into the agency. Which, as soon as that started, I'm like, oh, holy crap,
Something's gonna
they're all
happen.
gonna die.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's essentially what we end up getting by well, not everybody, but several people.
The other cool thing is that Reese gets to finally witness firsthand. Well, not firsthand because we had that whole space whale thing that he was involved in, but the team being in actual danger, life and death situation, he gets to see what his wife goes through all the time, and I think it heightens his emergency for having his wife leave Torchwood. Because when they get there and they pull Jack out of the rubble, the first thing he says, "Gwen, this could have been you, right? Or this should have been you, or this might have been you." So he's already thinking like, my wife is in way too much danger all the time. But I like how he essentially becomes part of the team in these last two episodes, because they do utilize him as a quasi member. If I remember correctly. I am right about that, right? I'm not just making an ass out of myself.
Yeah.
Well, you do make an ass out of yourself quite often.
Yeah, I know, but
Not a
but he was involved, right? Or do I have to rewatch these?
Are you say who, Reese?
Reese, yeah.
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 Okay.
Well, he's definitely helping there at the end, with like weevil containment and
At
the police station. Yeah. So yeah, it was cool getting to see that. I kind of more enjoyed seeing how everyone like came into Torchwood, and I don't know which of these stories was the most interesting of all of them.
Tosh. Because you know why I like the Tosh story so much? Because you think to yourself, is there ever a moment in time where she wasn't screwed? Because it seems like every time we have a Tosh on screen, I mean, it flashbacks or she's in the middle of getting screwed by something or someone. If I have it right, she worked for the Defense Ministry, and she stole some blueprints to make a weapon. And the only reason she did so is because the people that were making her do this had her mom hostage.
Yeah.
And then shortly after that, she goes to prison with Unit. So Unit once again shows up, although briefly, and it's Jack that gets her out of Unit and gets her into Torchwood. So I don't think we've ever really seen a moment where Tosh is just happy for the sake of being happy. And the way her term ends at Torchwood is just, it's totally unfair. Life was just totally unfair with her. So I just hope she's wherever she's at and she's finally happy.
I have really mixed feelings about Tasha's ultimate fate here because, on one hand, you're right. I even said it last week. She's second, or Reese is only second to her in terms of who gets screwed by the plot the most. And, I mean, she could never be happy. She was always pining over a jerk. She's like the Martha of Torchwood, the season 3 Martha of Torchwood,
Yep.
only for 2 seasons instead of 1.
Yep.
But at least they didn't do anything racially bad, like put her in a, Japanese internment camp in World War II or something, I have expected them to do something like that. But the thing is that there's this other part of me that was sort of glad to see her go, because at least now we don't have to see her be emotionally tortured all the time. You know what I mean? It's like, damn, I just felt so bad for this character and how they wrote her. And, if they didn't do a fairly good job with Gwen, other than her having the affair with Owen, which I just don't understand that at all. But, other than that, they've made her to be a pretty good character, especially because she's well-rounded, because she has that home life that the others don't have, you know? So if it weren't for that, I would swear that Russell T Davies doesn't know how to write women. I'm still not convinced that he does, because it's just terrible. It's really terrible. And so half of me was excited to see her go because at least she doesn't suffer anymore, but the other half was like, not fair. I mean, this character got the shaft for 2 years. But I don't think I need to tell you how I felt about Owen going.
Huh.
I don't think I pretty much made no bones about that one.
You know what? Okay, even if you hate the guy, the desperation of knowing that you're dying again, that was harsh. That was pretty.
I almost felt bad for him, but I was glad that he at least tried to comfort Tosh a little bit, you know, telling her it was okay and stuff, because she was hysterical, you know.
Right.
Because she felt it was her fault that he was about to die again. And so he did, in his own shallow way, try to comfort her a little bit right before
It
he
wasn't
died.
shallow. He told her, "Don't do that to yourself." He told her
I
that
know,
this
but
wasn't you,
as
and then he tells her that he regrets not ever seeing that she loved him. I mean, there's a kind of I guess I know you hate the guy. I really and I know why you hate him and all that. But I mean, there was I guess a little moment of him owning up to the bad stuff he did, and you know what? He ended up sacrificing himself not for just the Torchwood team, but for all of London. I mean, that
but if
has
he
to
had
count
a
for
way
something.
out, I think he would have. I mean, he was trying to find a way out. I mean, you know.
Well, yeah. I mean, put yourself in a situation where you're about to die. I mean, you're desperate to keep living. You can't hold that against them.
Yeah.
No, but you're trying to make him seem almost heroic in the end, and I don't feel it.
Well, and also, I mean, he had to be talked down. I mean, when he first got trapped, he's the one who starts going hysterical, and Tasha's like, "No, you can't do that because it's killing me too." And then he's like, "Oh, I'm not the only one in this situation." And it's like he finally like gets outside of himself for 2 seconds. And but you know, if Tosh hadn't been there, it would have been self-absorbed Owen feeling bad about himself again. And I'm just like, you know, I mean, I kind of feel bad for you too, but I don't feel bad about you when you're acting like an ass.
Well, if he was this horrible person, he would have told that nuclear assistant to stay with him. He had no idea what the hell he was doing. But what does he do? He tells her, "Go. I know I can take this. I can take over from here." And he tells her to go. If he really was an ass and he was looking for the best way out, you know, with minimum damage to himself, he would have made her stay because she
No,
obviously knew how to run the joint.
that's true. But I mean, he shouldn't be blaming her, and Tosh shouldn't be blaming herself. I mean, she says, get out of there," and he like hesitates and looks around for a minute, and then the door starts to close. It's like you could have gotten out of there if you'd actually like listened to Tosh.
Right? Did he have a guarantee that there was a fix for the nuclear station meltdown?
No, not necessarily.
Well, there you go. I mean, once again, it's he does sacrifice himself for the greater good,
He does.
and that counts for something. It's got to count for something.
It does. And I don't know. I mean, it just. I mean, I guess I got to give him credit for and let him go through the 5 stages of grief for himself, where, you know, he's allowed to be angry and upset that he's gonna die before he can like get back to acceptance and be heroic. But
And he does scream out, "Where's Jack, Yanto, Gwen?" Because he wants that last goodbye moment, and he knows he's not going to get it.
yeah,
So I mean, at a certain point, we got to remember he is human, and we got to remember he did end up sacrificing himself for the greater good.
yeah, he did. And I also did feel bad for him that, you know, one of the reasons why he is the way he is, you know, he had his fiance, who he seemed to love very much, taken away from him by a brain slug or whatever that was that
That was
killed
screwed up.
everyone.
That was really
Yeah,
screwed up.
that was screwed up. So, I mean, I do feel bad for him, and I don't. Um, I do think he was heroic at the end, but he's always going to remain a complicated character, and uh, yeah, I'll
Yeah.
leave it at that.
Like I said, I give him credit in the end, and he did give Tosh some kind of feeling of almost calm, a little, before she died. But it's never gonna make me like him. He's still a rapist. He's still, kind of an ass most of the time. Very, very shallow most of the time. And yeah, since he became a zombie, he's done it. He saved that woman's life. There were times when I really wanted to like him, but I just couldn't bring myself to do it. Um, I know they tried to rehabilitate the character, and overall, considering how bad he was, I thought they did a pretty good job. I'll give you that. But he's not a hero in my mind, not completely. He just, you know, he lived a very complicated life, and I didn't like 90% of what he did.
I think he ended up redeeming himself. That's the way I see him. I see him as a very flawed character, deeply flawed. As we learn more about him and his past, we get to understand the whys of why he was flawed, so flawed. But that doesn't excuse his bad behavior. But then again, in the end, he gave his life for the greater good, and that's probably the ultimate thing a human being can do
Yeah,
for any other human.
okay with him if it weren't for the fact that he's a criminal. There are certain things I can, and I know that it's not just that, it's the type of crime, because like there's people like in Orange is the New Black who did some pretty bad stuff, and they've kind of redeemed themselves over the 3 seasons. And there's a couple of characters who I thought I'd never like, who they actually got me to change my mind about. So my mind can be changed, people, but not him.
Uh,
Not him. Not that particular crime. It's just not going to happen. So
we
we'll
have to,
disagree on that.
we have to get you an Owen shirt.
Start a fire.
Yeah, well, like I said, I think he was redeemed at the end, and I did feel bad. But for me, the part that choked me up when it comes to these two characters was that message Tosh left at the end for everybody,
Oh,
where she said, "If you're seeing this, then I'm dead." But she has such a positive spin on it. But I remember it choked me up bad. I don't know why it hit me that hard, especially when she says, "Owen, you never knew this, but I love you." And I'm like, "Oh, but he died." Like, Jesus. That whole part really got me. It got me right in the feels, man. It was pretty harsh. And at that moment, the team has suffered great loss. There's only three of them left. What more is going to happen at this point?
yeah, they really tore them apart. I don't know how they can go forward with just the three of them, but I mean we're not going to get back to Torchwood for quite a while though, so
Right.
we have a while to get through that. But let's talk about Jack's story and Gray and John Hart and how that happened. Um, First of all, Gray's a dick.
Yes,
Yeah.
little shit.
It's like, what Jack did was an accident. He was a kid and he lost track of you by accident. He wasn't a coward. He wasn't intentionally trying to lose his brother. It just happened. And yeah. So
Maybe if you were a little faster, you slowpoke,
yeah.
we're going to shift it on him. But yeah, he is Gray is horrible, and the fact that Jack has held on to this guilt for so long, and then to have it turned on him, how horrible must that feel? I mean, you're looking for somebody for so long, you blame yourself for so long about this character's ultimate death or whatever, and then that person comes back and kills everybody that you love, or is trying to kill everybody that you love, and buries you for 100 years. Like, and then he tells them, I forgive you. Like, I kind of wouldn't. I'm not that big on the forgiveness factor. If I'm buried for 100 years because of this guy, I'm gonna hate him. I'm gonna hate him quite a bit.
Well, but see, I think Jack knows that that's what's more powerful. That Gray's whole thing is he's holding on to this hatred, and he wants to be mad at Jack, and Jack's like, okay, you can do that, but I forgive you. There's power in that. I mean, that's the whole, like, I mean, not to go all Jesus on you, but like that's the whole thing of, like, if someone hits you in the face, you turn the other cheek to them, and if someone tries to take your cloak, you give them your coat too. And if someone's gonna force you to walk a mile, then you go with them for two. Jesus' message is not only do you forgive someone, but you allow them to hurt you again, even at your own peril. There's a power in that because, well, I won't go into the whole dynamics of, like, if someone's being a victim of abuse or something, because that's a totally different situation. This should never be used as, like, uh, some sort of excuse for that. But for someone who is an empowered character like a Captain Jack Harkness, being able to offer forgiveness to someone who has wronged you so much, I mean, it really forces them to contemplate, should I still continue to hate this person when they are being, this, it's not nice, but it's like the power of niceness incarnate or something towards someone, if that makes any sense.
Uh, I don't think the Nazis gave a crap.
I,
I get what you're saying. I get the whole Gandhi approach. Just try to be the ultimate good, and good things will come from it. I get that, and it probably works, and we should all be that way. We really should. But I know myself a little too well, and something like that,
well, look at what happened in Charleston, and
You're right.
the arraignment of that sicko, and the families of the people who had been murdered, and they stood up in court, and they testified about how much they loved their family and what great people they were, and then all of them said, "But we forgive you,
God, that would be
and
so
we
hard
love
for me.
you." Ah, like,
It's
how do
beautiful. It's beautiful that they did that, and that they had it within them. So I just know maybe I'm just a horrible person. That would be too
Yes,
hard
you
for me.
are.
I know I am.
No.
That would be too hard for me to forgive. I mean,
I agree. It's incredibly hard. I mean, I think Jack has the long perspective of living for millions of years,
right.
and or however long he'd existed at that point. Um, but I mean, there comes a point where you can't hate anymore, and the power of love overcomes that. So
So says Huey Lewis.
exactly.
Yeah. I wish I could be that way, and that Jack did that, and that he didn't kill his brother. He's in cryogenic storage. Even when John Hart was telling him, you should just kill him and get this over with, he's like, we've had enough death today, or something like that, and he keeps him in cryogenic storage. Says a lot about Jack, I guess. But God, that would be so hard for me to take that approach. It really would.
Yep.
Especially
Again,
after he's behind killing Tosh, the way he killed her. I mean, that just would have broken me apart.
well, how much death and loss that Jack has experienced in his whole life. I think he's got to hold out hope for redemption, and this is his brother, and this is something that is important to him, and he wants to be able to try and fix it, but he knows he can't. but this, I mean, puts those problems on ice, literally, and allows him to deal with it on a different day. Okay, I'm specifically asking for a spoiler here. Does Gray come back in any of the future episodes, or do we
No,
never get any of that? Okay.
no,
I didn't think so. So,
no, and there's a reason for that, and you'll soon see why.
oh, okay.
Oh, plot
He's
twist.
not. Yeah, he's not brought up by name or anything, but something happens, and it's an impossibility now.
Okay. Melissa, any final thoughts on?
No, I think it goes further into showing how Jack just can't let go, like bringing back Owen, with the glove, and he just can't let go of things because he has experienced so much loss. And as we learn more about him and he gets more fleshed out as a character, I mean, he's carries so much burden, like this thing with his brother, and for someone who's immortal, I mean, at least us mortals, we have all these burdens we carry with us or guilt, but at least they get released in death. He doesn't have that luxury, so
That's true.
I understand in a way why he put him on ice, although to what end, who knows. But I get it, you know. Yeah, I almost half expected him to try and bring Tosh back, but then I was like, oh wait, the glove got destroyed, didn't it? But for a minute there, I was like, he can't let go. He's gonna do it. But then yeah, it's a goner. So but yeah, she needs to stay gone because at least she's not gonna suffer now and pine after a jerk and be Martha the Cardiff edition.
Well, let's hope there's no jerks in heaven.
Yeah. But let's hope
If
that she
anybody
finally gets.
deserves a nice little angelic, like just to be floating on a cloud with a harp, it's her.
Yeah. Well, because we know Owen's not going there. Anyway.
Y'all are horrible.
So that's the end of Torchwood season 2. I've got going into Doctor Who season 4 next coming up. We'll talk about what episodes I'm going to do first, but before we do that, Mark, you've been binge watching Penny Dreadful.
Yes, and I fell so in love with it. I mean, everybody needs to be watching this show. It is to Showtime what Game of Thrones is to HBO, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I'm making that claim. Will you back me up on that, Melissa?
Not as much violence.
No. But in terms of importance.
In terms of it's to me this is their prestige show. I'm sure there might be people arguing that it's some other show, but this is, it's fantastic. It's just some of the best Gothic, Victorian Gothic that I've ever seen done in film or television. And the fact that they have, like, it was 8 episodes the first season and then 10 this season. The fact that they can do it long form and really add to it, and these characters, the development is fantastic. I mean, you really get to know these people, and you know what's inside their souls. It's almost always tortured, basically. It's really fantastic. It's well rounded, and Josh Hartnett. I was talking about this with Marco. I sort of always thought that he was like this pretty boy who kind of got roles based on his looks, and I didn't really know if he had any talent because those pretty boy romantic comedy things, you don't really have to do a whole lot of serious acting.
Yeah.
But he's been a real revelation to me in this show. I mean, I always knew Eva Green could act, and she acts her ass off in this. I mean, it's like holding an acting clinic every freaking week.
Yes.
But Josh Hartnett, I didn't know he could be so. I mean, he's like charming when he needs to be, cool and mysterious when he needs to be. So many layers to his character. The way he flirts with this one character, who it's almost delightful. I want to just both of them from the screen and hug him or something. It's so I can't even describe it. I'm amazed. I was like, I thought he might be the weak link in it, And it
Yeah.
turns out that the weak link was a Doctor Who alumnus.
Billy Piper. She is the weak link.
Yeah.
You know, ever since I was a kid, my brother and I and my sister, once she got old enough, we used to watch every single Lon Chaney movie and what's his name?
Bela Lugosi.
Bela Lugosi and all all those the Universal classics.
Yeah, those
Wolfman,
are great.
Mummy,
They're creepy as hell.
Dracula. Yeah, I loved all that stuff. And when that movie Van Helsing came out, it's dumb fun. It really is, and a lot of people hated it. And I defended it because I loved having all the monsters in one movie. I thought that was a real cool concept, although they failed on a whole bunch of levels.
Yeah.
Penny Dreadful makes this work in spades. Holy crap, man. I mean, you have vampires, you have werewolves, you have witches, you have oh my god, you have freaking Frankenstein, for God's sake, done right. It all works. And as Melissa was saying, the acting is top notch. Timothy Dalton, if you hated Owen, that hate times 2 with Timothy Dalton.
He is an SOB.
He is a horrible, horrible person. And he makes you hate him. And there's some moments where you kind of feel for him, but then he immediately makes you hate him again. Eva Green, who I've been in love with since forever. She's beautiful and all that, but leaving that aside, the woman knows her craft. And like Melissa said, an acting clinic every single episode. And there's about 3 episodes that center on her character only, and they're brilliant.
Did you love the one from this season? With the
I've already caught up with everything.
But the one with the cut wife, the one that...
Yes. How perfect was that?
Oh my God. Patty LuPone is in this season in 1 episode, and let's just say they both leave any vanity they had behind, both Eva Green and Patty LuPone, and it's fantastic. If somebody doesn't win an Emmy from that episode, I'm gonna be really mad.
Eva Green deserves and she deserves everything for what she's doing on this show.
She deserves an Oscar for being on TV. I mean, that's
right. Oscar needs to set a new division just for her, because she's been absolutely brilliant. She goes from being calm to insane to possessed to angry to all in one episode. It's insane how great she is. And everybody else, Josh Hartnett, at first I didn't know what to do with him. I thought he was doing okay, and then he just surprises you. You're like, holy crap, this guy's great. There is a character called Mr. Lyle, who is absolutely...
love him.
He is so much fun, and he's so great, and you can tell the actor is having so much fun with his character. But he's essential in the whole storyline that takes place in these 2 seasons. To say that this is must-watch TV is understating it. You have to watch this. Andy, you will not be disappointed if you watch this.
But you know what, Marco? We haven't really explained what it's about. I think
we haven't.
Need to do that. We keep going.
Yeah. You just dove right in.
And we don't really, I don't think, it just occurred to me, we haven't really said what it's about.
Right.
You can explain that, because I think that's actually the bigger selling point, because that's what got me to start watching. I binge watched season 1 right before season 2 started on the advice of a friend, and I've been watching season 2 as it's aired, and it's, just based on this, I'll take that person's advice about TV shows to watch all the time, anytime now, because it's how great this was.
Let me see if I can explain it. As I understand it, it's essentially the same idea as like League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. You take characters from, in this case, kind of the Universal Monsters catalog and that era of classic horror, and they're all in a shared world together, and it's, I don't know what happens, but that's essentially the setup.
Almost, kind of, a little bit like that. But here's the other thing about Penny Dreadful. The storytelling isn't linear. It goes back and forth, and it jumps, and you're informed as to what's going on as you're watching each episode. It all starts to come together, which I think is a great storytelling device. But basically, it's evil trying to take over the world, and it's all prophesized. And they use the Bible quite a bit, and the Talmud. Basically, God has sent the demons down from heaven, right? Oh, we all know that story. How Satan fell from grace, and what happens is that the Dark Lord is trying to find his match, and if that should happen together, they would bring darkness to Earth, and destruction will come to it.
So they're both on Tinder and they're like swiping right and
Rare, yeah.
yeah. Okay.
So the person that the female mate that the Dark Lord is looking for is Eva Green, and they try to get her first through the use of vampires. And I don't want to explain too much about that because that is real important later on. But Timothy Dalton's character, his daughter was abducted by a vampire, and he needs help finding her. So in comes Eva Green. In comes Victor Frankenstein, who works at a morgue, and he's the one who does the first autopsy on the vampire they find. So he's drug in. Josh Hartnett's character is important because he's actually on a traveling show where he plays a cowboy, a gun-toting cowboy. He's actually a real sharpshooter. So Timothy Dalton's character employs him as bodyguard into the expedition trying to find his daughter. Now, everybody thinks we're going to find the daughter, we're dealing with vampires, that's the end of story. But no, the story gets deeper because we're finding out that what they're really after is Eva Green, and when we find out why, the story gets even deeper. And the second...
Dorian Gray.
Oh, I forgot about Dorian Gray. He's in there too. He really... Okay.
They don't use him very well the first season, I think.
Yeah, it's not that I have a problem with this character, it's that he really isn't important until just this past week.
Yeah, he's becoming important finally.
Yeah. So you also have Dorian Gray.
There's
and
a
basically,
problem with him.
the only reason he's in the show so far is for sex. Because you get all your TNA through his character.
Yeah.
Well, that works. I mean, but
he's the debauchery of the era. You live the debauchery of the era through him. You know, excess and pleasure. He's a hedonist, basically.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. But he's becoming important, and I'm really excited to see where they're going to take him. I wish we hadn't seen his portrait yet. I kind of wish they waited on that a little bit. It was lame. Yeah. That was not as exciting as I thought it might be because it was too soon, right?
Right. I think so.
So there are a couple of little missteps with Dorian's character, but he's becoming important, and I'm excited to see what's going to happen. The finale, the season 2 finale, is actually tonight.
Tonight, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, and there's also the House of Wax that's involved. They even threw that in, and it's working perfectly.
Yeah, what Taliban is right now. Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, Jesus, it all works together so well. So, negatives would probably be Dorian Gray. Really doesn't add up too much until right now, right before the season 2 season finale. And Billie Piper, actually, I couldn't stand her the first season.
We were referring to.
She chose to adopt an Irish accent that was comical. It was beyond bad.
Sounded like she was asking for Lucky Charms or something.
Yeah, exactly. It was a Dick Van Dyke Irish accent. It was stupid.
Was there any reason for her to be Irish? I mean, she could have been English, right?
Yes.
There was no reason she needed to be. It wasn't a part of her real character. There was no background on that, so why bother? She could have just been British this whole time.
Right, and her accent's just horrible. So speaking about her, there's Victor Frankenstein. There's Frankenstein's monster, who he has a name. His name is John Clare. There's also the Bride of Frankenstein, who I won't get into because that's really spoilery.
That's very spoilery.
Yeah, which is turning out to be really cool now. So I can't say this enough. This is a show that I highly recommend. Everybody has to watch this. Very well done. The acting is top notch, and I just hope you get started on that as soon as you can, I guess.
Okay, so the finale is tonight, and we're recording on Sunday. So what are you going to be watching? Are you going to be watching Penny Dreadful or the Women's World Cup final?
Both.
The what final? I'm not gonna watch soccer. Stupid soccer. Yeah, I'm gonna watch soccer, but I'm gonna watch both. I'm gonna watch both.
Yeah, I might have to watch Penny Dreadful later, but is it on 8 or 9? It's on at 9.
I think it's at 8, wasn't it? I think I saw 8 o'clock.
Is it 8 or 9? I forget. But
I can DVR it.
what time is the game? Is it 6 or 7?
I have no idea.
I think it starts here at 7.
Oh yeah, because I couldn't remember what time. Yeah, because Vancouver is a different time. Never mind. Anyway, so no, I'll be watching both, just not at the same time, obviously. But I'm excited, and you know, this is a really good show. If you like deep character studies and a lot of mystery and a lot of gothic horror, you're gonna love this show. It's done right and properly, and it's not campy at all. It's like they could have gone for the green-faced, veiny, bolted Frankenstein's monster, but they didn't. I mean, he looks like
they made it work.
Yeah, they made it work in a way that he can go to. He doesn't blend in with society because he's obviously different, but he's not green. You know what I mean? So it's.
Does he look like Peter Boyle, and does he sing "Putting on the Ritz" at any time?
Oh.
Does he moan every time he gets hot soup dropped on him?
Does he go fire bad?
Fire bad.
No, in fact, he's poetic. He recites poetry. He's highly intelligent. Yeah.
But he is a little rapey sometimes.
Yeah,
Whoa.
And he's very he's supernaturally strong and threatening and violent too.
Well, that actually sounds really cool and right up my alley, and I like most of those actors that are involved. It's been one of those shows that, since I don't have Showtime, I'm like waiting for it to get a couple of seasons, and then I'll eventually catch up with it. I mean, if it's taken me 10 years to get into Doctor Who, I don't know when I'm going to get into Penny Dreadful, but
Future
probably
podcast.
soon.
Well, it's been renewed for a 3rd season, so you have until like next spring to catch up. It's 18 episodes.
I'll just go to a torrent and download it.
If you're looking for something to watch right now in the summer that's about to start up, I would recommend Rectify. It's on the Sundance Channel. They're starting season 3 next week, and season 1 and 2 combined is like 16 episodes, so it's not that many. It's 6.
That's doable.
Yeah, it's really great. It's not sci-fi or gothic or horror. It's dramatic, but it's a wonderful show. But it's very slow burn. So like we're talking Mad Men level pace.
But tonight's all about Penny Dreadful.
Penny Dreadful, yes.
Yeah, unless you want to watch women's soccer, where there's somebody who was arrested for domestic violence but suffered no suspensions. But that should be okay for Melissa. Because there's no double standard there.
No, it's not okay. And I haven't really been into the World Cup this year, and I don't know if that's part of it. I haven't as much time for it. But here's the thing, Marco. It's not like with what's his face in the elevator where we have proof of what happened. We don't know what happened. Let it. It needs to go through the courts, and whatever's going to happen is going to happen. But I'd agree she should have been suspended. I think she got benched for like 2 games or 3 games. I think that's not nearly enough.
I stand on her being suspended long term, and I don't understand why she's representing the country. But it's too bad that it worked out that way. We do have police records where she was being belligerent and violent towards the policemen. They had to restrain her on the floor. So if that doesn't add up for people, what I don't like is that everybody jumped to her defense immediately, and I'm like, all right, man, you know what? All right, whatever. If that's the way it works out, that's the way it works out. But it's a huge double standard that's being used, and I'm not standing up for men or anything like that, because Ray Rice got what he deserved. He should have been like permanently banned for what he did.
He didn't get what he deserved. That was the problem.
Well, no, but he did get banned for like how long? I don't know what. But what I mean is that he suffered monetarily, and teams haven't touched him ever since. He might not play football again. And you know what? It's his fault. Too bad. I'm not jumping up for him and not protecting him, defending him, or in any way. But I don't like how I've never liked when things are only applied to one side. And Hope Solo deserves to be bashed the way other people do.
Oh, I
Because
agree.
what she did was wrong.
Men making these decisions because they somehow there's still this idea that women are only the victims of domestic violence and not the perpetrators, and you know that's what our society kind of teaches, that women don't do that, or that doesn't happen.
That's true.
It's that, and it's men making these laws and these rules, and they need to remember that women aren't all just meek and going to cower in the corner. There's some women who are extraordinarily violent and criminal, and they need to be dealt with.
You're right. But the U.S. women's team is governed by women, and they should have suspended her. They should never have brought her on with the national team. That's just so wrong. It sends a wrong message. And she's actually done this before. She actually put a beat down on her husband.
Yeah,
prior to them getting married.
Sport that Americans gave a damn about by and large, maybe this would be a bigger thing, but it's soccer, and I just don't think people, you know what I mean, they don't care as much, you know, and that's too bad, because unfortunately there's really not many female sports that the whole country cares about very much, except every 4 years at the Olympics, maybe. They care about ice skating or gymnastics, you know, and that's it.
That's true.
It's sad. But I agree. I would have liked to not have seen her on this team, because and I don't think, I'm not saying she should necessarily get suspended unless charges get brought. But until this crap straightens out, it's bad for the team. It's bad for PR. It's, you know, there's got to be something in her contract, right? It's some kind of like morality clause or something.
It should be, but
I think pretty much any time if you're convicted of domestic abuse, that should be grounds for termination if you're in any sort of like professional sport. That whole thing makes me not happy. But I want to. So we've bookended the show with talking about sports, which I think is awesome. Let's talk about what I should watch next week. Partners in Crime, The Fires of Pompeii, yay. So we're going to get some Capaldi in there. Planet of the Ood, so yeah, we're going to go back there. The Sontaran Stratagem. Then episode 5 is The Poisoned Sky. Then it's The Doctor's Daughter, The Unicorn and the Wasp, and then Silence in the Library and Forest of the Dead, which I notice are the return of Stephen Moffat. So that's a total of 9 episodes there. How far in do you think I should try to get of that this week?
Partners Crime, you have to. Okay, the first 3 you have to.
Okay.
Then I would stop at The Doctor's Daughter, because there's going to be some splaining to do there.
Okay. So I should watch The Doctor's Daughter, and we'll have a good discussion after that then.
Cool.
Okay, cool. Then I'm going to watch those 6 episodes. And thanks again to Mark and Melissa for being here with me. 18 episodes. It's awesome. We're voting age. We're officially adults now, so
we can smoke cigarettes.
We better start acting like it. Damn it!
Go buy a lottery ticket. That's what.
Scratch.
Let's go buy some lottery tickets with our luck. And until then, we'll see y'all next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Oh, and that's over. Thanks, y'all.
All right, man. That was fun.